And my dad was like, no, no, don't pray about it. Eh? They are still too young. Ah, Favor, don't do like this. Oh. What are you hiding? Hello, everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, please like and subscribe. My name is Favor Lasco Adejo, and I'm so glad to have you here. So, yeah, how I got to know that he was the one. Okay, let me just say this before I go into the video proper. Before you say you want to hear from God about whom to get married to, you should already be hearing from God, right? So you should not just desire to hear from God when you want to get married. You should have been working with God. You should have been able to tell when is God speaking and when it's another voice. You should have a particular way that God reveals things to you. Okay? I started praying about my marriage for as long as I can remember. I've been praying about my marriage from when I was very young. So I remember one funny incident that happened during our morning devotion. My mom raised it up as a prayer point, just to pray for everyone in the family, like just to pray for her children, our marriages and stuff. And my dad was like, no, oh no, no, don't pray about it. Eh? They are still too young and all of that. I think I was already in the university then, and just a few months down the line, guess what happened? He was the one that raised up the prayer point.
Oh my God! Wow!
So marriage has been something that we've been praying about. We've been committing it to God's hands. Prayers had gone ahead to prepare the way, so to speak. So for your marriage, do not wait until when you feel like, oh, it's time, I'm ready now, then you start praying. No, it's never too early to start praying about the whom you desire, about the person you want to get married to. How we met. We met in 2018. Okay, I saw he was transferred to our church back then in Zamfara. That was the first time I saw him. And when I saw him, I was like, oh, he's fine. He loves God and all of that. Because he has always done the work of God with so much zeal. So I kind of admired that about him. That was the first time I saw him. He also saw me in church. After I saw him, I think I started to develop some kind of feelings for him. Like I just started to crush on him. And then I decided to just pray for him because he was already so advanced and then he was still single. I and he was a pastor. So I just took it upon me to pray for him. I wasn't praying that he would marry me or something. I was praying that he would get married to the best person, to the right person that God had ordained for him because he wasn't getting any younger. So I got praying, and one day God ministered to my spirit that he's going to be my husband. And I was actually very shocked. I was not thinking about getting married anytime soon. In fact, we were asked to stand up in church by our senior pastor. Then he said those that are ready for marriage, he wanted to pray for them, and then he asked them to stand up. I didn't stand up, and my husband said he turned, he saw me sitting down, and he felt somehow because by then he had already known that I was going to be his wife. So God told me that I was going to get married to a minister, and that was March 28th of March 2019. I had the date written down on my phone. So God told me that I would be the one to get married to him. And then I was just praying for him. I was like, God, give him a good wife. There were so many people that I had in mind that would be the best fit for him, right? He's my pastor, so I wanted the best for him. And I was praying, I was like, God, no, this other person is that. And even when we got talking with my husband, after we got married, certain recommendations of ladies in church were made for him. And I must tell you, these ladies are beautiful, God fearing, industrious, all the good things that you could think of in ladies. Those ladies had them. It's just that they were not meant for him. Some of them are married now and they are in their wonderful homes right now. So all of that, I got praying. I was like, God, I want give him this certain person, give him this person. And God was saying, no, babe, you're the one for him. And God told me that around 2019. I didn't say anything. And he didn't say anything also. He knew, but he didn't say anything to me. I think he met me one time after rehearsals, and he just, normal greeting. He was greeting people in the choir, and then I greeted him. Then he asked me of my school, asked me of the level I was, asked me why I was not always around, and all of that. So I told him that in fact I would be returning back to school, and then he prayed for me. And I think that was the day he collected my number. Yes, that was the day he collected my number. And yeah, I went back to school, continued with my school life and all of that. Come back home, I would see him on the altar, we'll just say hi, I would just greet him in passing whenever I see him in church. No, much earlier, God had told me that I was going to get married to a minister. After God told me that he's the one, I got praying, and then God reminded me that because I was kind of trying to fight it, and then God reminded me that He had already told me much earlier that I was going to get married to a minister, and then He has been preparing me for it. I've been listening to marriage seminar topics. I've been reading books. I've been preparing myself generally for marriage. I didn't know it was going to come as early as it did, but I was actually preparing myself for it. So, but when he came, and God was telling me that He was my husband, I was not so sure, because He told me like a year before my husband met me. So it kind of lingered for a while. When God tells you something, it's like, God, this is a year, and this person have not said anything. Is he truly the one for me? After God had reminded me of what He told me, that I was going to get married to a minister, different God-fearing men were now coming around. Different God-fearing guys were coming around. As in, people I could testify of how truly they loved God. And, they were just coming. Like, people, God-fearing guys were coming around. And at some point, I got, will I say angry? I was like, God, please, what is happening? These people coming to me, they're actually hearing from you. They can hear from you, and I was like, God, what is happening? Why are all these guys coming around? And I was like confused. God, you said is Pastor Joshua, but he has not said anything. And I sure wanted to get into a relationship. At that time, I was already in my 400 level, and being single, I sure just wanted to get into a relationship at that time, because I think a year before that, I was in a relationship for like 2 weeks or so, and then I ended it. It didn't work out. That's a story for another day. But then I just told God that I was tired. What's happening with that? If it's Pastor Joshua, let him shut up to me. I'm almost rounding up school and everything. And there was this friend of mine, we were very, 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 very close. He loves God, and then we're pursuing God together in school. Then he was part of the people that encouraged my work with Christ in school. And at some point, I started feeling like that friend of mine was the one, right? Because he feared God. We were friends, we were talking and everything. And for some of us, this is where we get it wrong. Just because you're friends with somebody, they love God, and you have like similar visions, that doesn't mean that that person is meant to be your spouse. So I heard a pastor saying that some people married people that were supposed to be their business partners. So for some of us, just because someone is around, that doesn't mean that that person is the one. So during that period, I felt as if he was the one. And then, he called me, and then he told me that he had a thing for me, but that God was not giving him, like, he didn't feel like God was not giving him the go ahead to ask me out. So he told me, see how God works. That's why I'm very happy that he's actually somebody that works with God, my friend. He listens to God. And then if my friend had asked me out, I would have said yes. And if I was in a relationship, definitely he wouldn't ask me to break that relationship, and then I wouldn't want to break my relationship for somebody and all of that. But That's how God helps us. He understands our weaknesses. And that's why it's important that the people in our circle should be people that hears from God, so that when you're about to make a mistake, there's someone there to keep you from making that mistake. So that was how that played out. That was towards the end of my final exams. That was when it happened. And there was this other guy that came, and then he asked me out, and then I told a very good friend of mine, a female friend of mine this time around. I told her about it, and she was like, and because I told her that I refused the proposal of this particular person, the person was a graduate already. He just came around and then he told me. So when I told her, she was like, favor self, what is your problem? What is your problem? Like, she was like, this guy is good, this guy is God fearing, this guy loves God and all of that. I didn't tell her that God had already told me that someone else was going to be my husband. So that was how that phase went on. Just to say this quickly, when God told me, I didn't meet my husband, but I did something. I did not meet him, I did not tell him, but I did something. So what did I do? I think somebody told me that when you keep going on someone's page on Facebook, that somehow Facebook was going to recommend you as a friend to that person. So that was what I was doing. I would just go from time to time, go on his Facebook, just scroll and check. And then doing that, he sent me a friend request one day. And, these little things that he did, collecting my number, praying for me and all of those things, I kind of felt like he cared. And those were just small signals that maybe something was going to happen. But I didn't push for it. I just told God that if it's your will, make it happen. Because I'm not going to tell him. You told me, so you tell him. I didn't even know that he also knew, like, almost the same time I got to find out. So when did we start dating? I went for service, right? Yes. I served in Sokoto. We had not started dating, right? But by then he had told me that he loved me. And when he told me, he called me, he said, Ina Sonki. Ina Sonki. Yes, in Hausa, that was how he said it. He said he really loves me when he called me. And then he told me on the phone. He told me on the phone. He told me in February of 2020, I think. I think that was when he told me. And then we're doing our registration, February or January, we're doing our registration for NYSC then. And by that time, he was already in Sokoto. He was no longer in my church in Zafara. He was already in Sokoto. And then he called me from Sokoto then, and he was like, what are the states I'm including in my NYSC? I told him, and I told him that my number one choice was Sokoto. Number one choice has always been Sokoto. Even when we got discussed with my friends before he was transferred to Sokoto, I had already told them Sokoto. So when I heard that he was in Sokoto, I was like, wow. But then he was not like, he now told me that a transfer letter came that he was transferred to Nasarawa. And then he was trying to suggest that I put Nasarawa, but I told him that God had already told me that I was going to serve in Sokoto, and then he agreed with me. So I left it at Sokoto. Some days later, he called me and told me that the transfer was cancelled. So he was just transferred to another station in Sokoto State. So thank God I did not change my place of posting. Anything God tells you to do, please stick with it. No matter who tries to suggest something different from you. The person did not hear from God, you heard from God. No matter how close you are to someone, the voice you should always listen to is God's voice. So that's by the way. I got to Sokoto for my NYSC. I went there around March. Then March 28th, we were asked to leave the camp because of coronavirus at that time. He carried me, he took me to the camp house in town. He took me to the church camp house. And then we got talking. I remember I was sitting down in his car. And then a call member came. Oh God. And she saw me, she was like, all these Zaria girls say, you're just coming and you're already sitting in pastor's car, in front of pastor's car. My husband was there when she said it, and I just smiled. Because I had not said yes then, but I was sure going to say yes. we were talking, and then God reminded me of when he told me that I was going to get married to his son. So when I went back to check, we were still talking. I checked and I saw March 28, 2019. So that was like a year. It was exactly like a year after. And I'm grateful to God that God told him. And then, despite the suggestions, the good suggestions that he got, he still stuck by what God said. Right? Because the people suggesting those people were, people that loved him. And then these people they were suggesting were people of good testimonies, right? But then I'm grateful to God that he stuck with what God said, that, hey, favor is your wife. Because there are some instances that that God has told you that someone is meant to be your spouse, but then the person ends up getting married to another person, right? And God is not an author of confusion. If that happens in your case, just trust God that somehow He's going to bring someone much better, someone that would listen to Him and get married to you. Never feel like God has failed you because he said you were going to get married to someone and then the person married someone else. The mistake is never on the path of God, it's always on the path of man. How did my parents react to it? After we were asked to leave the camp, I stayed in Sokoto for some days. So when I returned back to Zamfara, I met my parents, and then immediately I got home, I told my parents. So I called them early in the morning and I met them and I told them. And amazingly, my dad my dad told me that when Pastor Joshua, that's my husband, when he came to the church, that he felt in his spirit that my husband was going to be his son-in-law. He didn't know for which of his daughters, but then he knew he was going to be his son-in-law. He accepted it. So it was easy for me. My parents also knew. My mom in particular, I think there was one time after I was around for holidays, my husband was in Sokoto. I was going through his page, I saw his post with some call members, and then I was showing my mom. As we were going through the picture, the call of my husband entered. He was calling my mom to greet my mom, and I was shocked. I was like, who told this guy that I was going through his Facebook page and all of that? Because I was like, God, and then he's called my mom just to greet my mom because he was in Sokoto, and then he pastored her church. So he called her to greet her, and then I was begging my mom that day. I was like, Mommy, don't tell him that we're going through his picture. And she told him that, we're just going through your Facebook picture now. Favor was just showing me your picture. After that, my mom was asking me, are you sure you do not like this man? And I didn't tell her anything because he had not asked me out. So I just told her that no, I didn't have any issue with my parents accepting him because God had already told them about it. There were some people that felt as if I was getting married to him because I was pregnant. I went to Sokoto, and immediately I came back from Sokoto, I was talking about marriage. And most people felt as if, even my friends, when they came from Zaria, from Kaduna for the wedding, they're like, this girl, I hope you're not pregnant. When did we graduate? You're not dating anybody, and Nana, you're getting married. Oh, Jesus, I love my friends. Also in church, for the pregnancy test, we're directed by the marriage committee to go to a nurse. They chose the hospital that we're going to do it. They sent us a particular nurse. We went there, we called the nurse, we met with the nurse. They did the test for the genotype, pregnancy test, HIV test, the usual routine test they do for people that are about to get married. And we did all of that. And I think we did that in the month of June, right? If I can remember vividly, I'm not so good with dates. But we're still going for the marriage class and all of that. 2 days to the wedding, we're told that we're supposed to do another pregnancy test. And things just came up, I think, on that Thursday. They gave us Thursday, Friday to run the test before our wedding on Saturday. So on Thursday was our testimony night in church. And because of the activities going on, like that week was very tight to us because we had to plan a lot of things. Our wedding came up really quickly, really, really, really quickly. So I don't blame the people that felt as if I was pregnant because they felt like we were rushing because we were trying to hide something. people felt like my husband was rushing. Same people that were pushing him to go get married, the same people that were telling him, oh, you're getting old, you're not, they shall still felt. See, anything you do, people are going to talk. That's one thing. You should not allow what people will say stop you from doing what you're supposed to do, because they are going to talk regardless. Whether you do it, you don't do it, people are sure going to talk. So what people will say should not stop you from doing what you're supposed to do. So we're supposed to run the test. They said Thursday, Friday. That Thursday, testimony night and other activities. Friday, an impromptu traditional wedding came up, because we had planned that we we're just going to do it just like a family something, just do it, because we had already paid my bride price. We paid my bride price. I'm going to get the dates. I try and get the dates and then include it in this video earlier. So the traditional wedding, we felt as if the traditional rites were done, but when the people from my place came around, they were like, we should do it. So yes, we did it. It was impromptu that Friday. So that Friday was fully booked. We could not go anywhere whatsoever, and we finished very late into the night. We slept very, very late that day. So we woke up and then the preparation, it took time. So the wedding was supposed to start by 10. I think I left my hotel room few minutes to 10. So I went there late. I got there past 10. So people were already waiting. So I was thinking that sharp now, the person driving us will just go and drop me and then I'll just dance in. But the person now took me through the second gate. He now told me that and he was told by some persons that I'm supposed to come, that I should come see them in a classroom. Like, so we went there into the classroom and then they were telling me that Favor, don't do like this. Oh, what are you hiding? And please, I'm not saying this to try and criticize the system, because for every organization that you belong to, there are certain rules and regulations that governs that organization, and then you should follow them, right? But we had already done the test, so this one I sort of felt like, what was the need? I was trying to explain to them why we could not do it on Friday. They were like, no, that we must run the test, and so they brought a cup and I was asked to pee in it. And why it felt so funny to me was because, I had not done it with my husband and all of that. We told ourselves we're not going to do it till our wedding night. So I was very surprised when everything was playing out. My sister, that's my chief bridesmaid, she was very shocked because I had just finished my menstrual flow. I was even putting on a pant liner just in case I was going to get any other drops. So it was very shocking to me. I was trying to explain to them that, see me, oh, I just finished seeing my menstrual flow and all of that. They were not having any of it. And then they gave me the cup. I peed in the cup and then they collected it. My sister had to assist me that day with my big balloon gown. And she helped me. We raised the gown. She had to hold the gown. I had to arrange the cup, pee inside so that none of the pee will touch the gown or touch me and all of that. And I gave the cup to them and they checked, and the way they were eagerly waiting for it, just they were two. When it came out, I saw the way their countenance changed. Like, I think they were expecting I was going to be pregnant. I don't know. But then it came out negative. They were not like, why didn't you not come for the test now? Why didn't you come for the test now? And all of that. I just told them that sorry, I just apologized. And that's it. So we got married on the 25th of July. Several things happened, but these are the ones I can remember for now. So I pray and I hope that this helps you somehow. Why I made this video, right, is just to encourage you, to let you know that God still joins people. God created someone for you, right? And that you should walk with him, and that you should know the voice of God, right? You should already be hearing from God before you ask God to tell you who he wants you to get married to. I think I've said too much, right? This is like the first video I'm doing for YouTube. I've posted other videos, but they were just videos I made, but this one I'm making it specifically for YouTube. So please like, subscribe. It's my first YouTube video. So please like, subscribe, and share. And if you have questions, please put them in the comment section. And what unique happened during your wedding, or how did you know your husband was the one, and all of that? Just give us a little bit of your story in the comment section. Thank you so much, and please encourage us by subscribing. Please encourage us, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.